The Seven Little Goats and the Enchanted Forest. Wolf. Once upon a time, deep inside the heart of the enchanted forest, where trees hummed lullabies and stars blinked even at midday, there stood a small cottage made of mossy stones and golden timber. The roof was shaped like a mushroom cap, and fireflies danced around its chimney every night. This wasn't an ordinary house. It was a place of protection, wrapped in ancient spells and motherly warmth. Inside lived Mother Goat, a wise and gentle soul with soft white fur and kind, twinkling eyes. She was known in the forest as a keeper of old magic and guardian of her 7 little ones. Each of her goatlings was different. Clover, the tiniest and cleverest; Bramble, the bold jumper; Thistle, the artist; Fern, the singer; Maple, the dreamer; Juniper, the curious explorer; and Moss, the storyteller. They spent their days laughing, playing hide-and-seek between talking tulips and drinking dewberry tea from flower petal cups. Their home was full of love, music, and the scent of lavender cakes baking in the oven. But not everything in the forest was light and joy. One morning, as golden beams filtered through the window vines, Mother Goat called her little ones to the hearth. "My darlings," she said gently, wrapping her shawl tighter, "I must travel to the Crystal Grove to fetch the moonberries we need for our midsummer lanterns. I'll be back before dusk, but you must listen closely." All 7 goatlings sat up, ears perked, eyes wide. "There is danger in these woods," she continued, lowering her voice to a hush. "A cunning wolf walks among the trees. He's no ordinary beast. His tongue is dipped in lies, and his claws are hungry for mischief. Promise me, no matter what you hear, no matter what you see, do not open the door to anyone but me." "But what if he pretends to be you?" asked Clover, tilting her head. "A very clever question," said Mother Goat with a warm smile. She reached into her pocket and handed Clover a silver key. "This key unlocks the enchanted window mirror. If you're unsure, look into it. It will show you the truth." With that, she kissed each one on the forehead, tied her traveling cloak, and stepped outside. The forest rustled, welcoming her as she disappeared into the misty trail. The goatlings watched until the last sparkle of her charmstone faded behind the trees, and then silence. Inside the cottage, the 7 little goats stayed close together, their laughter a bit softer, their games a little slower. Something unseen had shifted in the wind. In the shadows of the enchanted forest, a pair of silver eyes opened, watching, waiting. Far beyond the cheerful sounds of the goats' cottage, where the forest thickened and sunlight barely touched the mossy ground, something ancient stirred beneath the twisting branches. There, in a place called the Hollow of Whispers, lived a creature cloaked in shadows and mystery, a wolf unlike any other. He was tall and lean, with fur as dark as the deepest midnight, laced with silver streaks that shimmered when moonlight touched them. His eyes were not the eyes of a wild animal. They were sharp, intelligent, and glowing with a strange light that flickered like candle flames. This was the enchanted wolf, once a prince of the northern mountains, cursed by the forest witch long ago. His curse was cruel. He could never age, never rest, never love. Only one way remained to break the enchantment. He needed 7 pure, magical hearts. Not just any hearts, but the hearts of innocent, untouched forest creatures. And now he had smelled them. "The 7 goatlings," he whispered, his voice like rustling leaves. "They laugh, they play. Their hearts are untouched by fear or greed. They will be mine." As he prowled closer to their cottage, the trees themselves seemed to recoil. Even the whispering leaves fell silent when he passed. Birds tucked their heads under their wings, and the wind held its breath. He stopped at the edge of the glade, watching the small home nestled among flowering shrubs and curling vines. Golden smoke drifted from its chimney, and tiny giggles echoed from behind its round windows. It was almost too perfect, but the wolf was patient. He crouched low, hidden beneath a bush of silver thorns, and listened to the sounds of joy within. His ear twitched as Clover's voice chimed. "Mama said never to open the door, not even for a butterfly with boots." The wolf grinned. A slow, sinister grin. "They don't know who I am," he murmured. "They think I'm just a tale, but I will become their story, one they'll never forget." The wind picked up, brushing his fur like icy fingers. From the folds of his tattered cloak, he pulled out a small vial, a voice charm, gifted long ago by a witch he had tricked. It could make his voice as sweet and warm as honey for just 1 hour, but he wouldn't waste it now. First, he needed to listen, to watch, to wait for the perfect moment to strike. From beneath the thick leaves, the wolf watched the door, and inside, the 7 goatlings played, unaware that the forest had stopped whispering and the silence had teeth. The sun had climbed high, and golden light filtered through the treetops, painting the floor of the cottage with dappled shapes. Inside, the goatlings played their favorite game, Guess the Forest Sound. Thistle painted a butterfly with glowing wings. Fern hummed a melody the birds had taught her. And Moss, as always, was spinning a tale too big for his tiny hooves. But suddenly, the cottage shivered, not from wind, not from cold, but from a presence. A strange hush fell over the room, and the light outside dimmed as if a cloud had swallowed the sun. Then, a knock, 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 knock. It was slow, heavy, and far too deep to belong to Mother Goat. The 7 goatlings froze. Clover clutched the silver key tighter in her tiny hoof. Who's there?" called Bramble, inching toward the door. A soft voice answered, sweet, calm, familiar. "It's me, my little darlings. Open the door. Mama's home." Clover narrowed her eyes. That doesn't sound like her. Her voice is brighter. Moss stepped closer to the enchanted mirror and whispered, "Let's check." The mirror shimmered like the surface of a quiet lake. Slowly, a fog swirled within, parting to reveal the truth behind the door. Not Mother Goat, but the wolf, wrapped in shadows. His sharp teeth were hidden behind a sewn-on smile, and though he tried to look gentle, his eyes betrayed him. Those glowing, silver eyes. "It's the wolf!" gasped Clover. Juniper bolted the lock. Bramble pulled the curtain shut. Fern blew out the lanterns, and Thistle scribbled a warding rune on the floor with a piece of enchanted chalk. The knock came again, louder. "Children!" the voice called, this time more demanding. "Why won't you let me in?" Maple, usually the quietest, stood tall on a wooden stool and said firmly, "Our mother told us not to open the door, and we won't." Silence. Then, a growl. Not a loud one, but a low rumble that rolled through the floorboards like thunder. The wolf realized he'd been discovered. "Foolish little creatures," he hissed under his breath as he slinked back into the woods. "But I'll return. With a new voice, a sweeter mask, and no mirror shall stop me next time." Inside the cottage, the goatlings hugged one another tight. Their game was forgotten. The wind began to whistle again, but it no longer sounded like a tune. It was a warning. Something dark had touched their world, and it would come again. Deep within the forest, where even the mushrooms closed their caps when danger passed, the wolf stalked through the underbrush. His pride was bruised. He had been outwitted by goatlings. Tiny, playful, trusting creatures, yet they had seen through his disguise. But he wasn't finished. Far from it. As the sky began to blush with evening, he reached a forgotten clearing where ancient trees circled a bubbling spring of silver water. This was the Wishing Hollow, a place of old secrets and forbidden spells. Most creatures feared it, but not the wolf. He had been here before. He knelt by the spring and whispered into its shimmering surface, "Mirror waters, show me the voice of the Mother Goat." The spring responded, its surface swirling into a glowing image of Mother Goat speaking to her children, her tone full of warmth and music. The wolf listened, memorized every syllable. Then, from the folds of his cloak, he drew the voice charm, smooth, round, and gleaming faintly red. "One drop of her tone," he murmured, "and they'll believe anything I say." He dipped the charm into the spring, and a strange light filled the air. The charm pulsed, then dissolved into mist, wrapping itself around the wolf's throat. When he spoke again, it was no longer his growl they heard. It was the exact voice of Mother Goat, sweet, gentle, soothing. Even the owls turned their heads, confused. He laughed, but not with joy, with triumph. "This time," he whispered, "they will open the door themselves." But still, he needed more. The mirror had betrayed him once. He had to make sure it would not happen again. So, he crept through twisted roots and thorny vines, heading toward the cave of an old acquaintance, the mask maker, a blind raven who crafted illusions out of moonbeams and lies. By nightfall, the wolf had struck a deal. A feather in exchange for a false hoof, a patch of fur for a mother's scent, a breath for an illusion that would fool any eye. And just before dawn, cloaked in magic and dressed in deceit, the wolf stood outside the goatling's home once more. This time, he wouldn't knock. This time, he would knock like her. As the sky softened from violet to rose, the first golden rays of morning spilled through the cracks in the shutters. Inside the cottage, the goatlings were still bundled in their blankets, their dreams filled with floating lanterns, flying foxes, and giggling stars. All was still. Then came the knock, soft, warm, familiar. "Children," said the voice. "Wake up, my loves. It's me. I've come back." The voice was perfect, gentle, loving, just like their mother's. Fern's ears twitched. "That's her," she whispered, already halfway off her pillow. "But how?" Clover frowned. "She said she'd be gone until the third chime of the garden bell." Juniper tiptoed to the window and peeked through the ivy curtain. Outside, there stood their mother. Same shawl, same eyes, same kind smile. "She's early," Bramble said, springing up. "Maybe the fairy market closed sooner." Moss hesitated. "Shouldn't we check the mirror again?" Clover turned to the enchanted mirror, but it remained foggy, its magic strangely dim. The reflection of the door wavered like heat on a summer road. The wolf had thought of everything. Even the mirror had been fooled. One by one, the goatlings gathered at the door. "But we must ask a question," said Thistle carefully. "To be sure. Mama always tells us secrets only we know." Clover nodded. "Okay. What did you pack us for our birthday picnic last spring?" The voice answered at once, without hesitation. 7 honeyberry pies, one for each of my little stars." The goatlings gasped. It was true. Clover's hoof trembled on the silver key. Click. The door creaked open, and standing there was not their mother. The illusion began to flicker, just for a breath, just long enough for Maple to notice the glint of fangs beneath that gentle smile, for Juniper to see the shadow that didn't match the figure it followed. But it was too late. The wolf lunged. The door burst open with a gust of freezing air, scattering petals from the windowsill. The goatlings screamed and scattered, running in all directions, but the cottage was small, and the wolf was fast. "No!" cried Clover, diving beneath the table. "Help!" yelled Fern, clutching the curtains. One by one, the wolf gathered them. Not to hurt them, not yet. He wrapped each little one in thorn-root vines, enchanted to keep them still and silent. When all 7 were caught, he smiled, not with cruelty, but with satisfaction. 7 perfect hearts, he murmured. 7 pieces of freedom. But what he didn't know was that one had escaped. Hidden behind the woodpile, Juniper had vanished through a secret tunnel Mother Goat had dug long ago. And now, as the wolf prepared to vanish into the forest with his prize, Juniper was already running. For help, for magic, for a way to save them all. Juniper's tiny hooves beat against the damp earth as she raced through the hidden tunnel, heart pounding like a drum. Behind her, the sounds of struggle faded into silence, replaced by her own rapid breath and the whispers of the roots around her. The tunnel was old, built long ago for emergencies, but this was the first time any of them had truly needed it. She didn't cry. She didn't stop. She only thought of her brothers and sisters, bound by the wolf's vines, trapped in their own home. "I'll bring them back," she whispered to the darkness. "I promise." At the end of the tunnel, she emerged beneath the twisted trunk of an ancient tree, known only in fairy tales as the Mother Willow, said to be as old as the stars and wise as the wind. Juniper dropped to her knees. "Please," she pleaded to the tree, "show me where to go. I don't know how to fight him alone." The ground shimmered beneath her. From the roots, a soft glow rose, tiny golden lights floating like fireflies but humming with magic. They circled her gently, guiding her toward a narrow trail hidden behind a curtain of ivy. It was the path of forgotten light, a road only revealed to the pure of heart in moments of true desperation. Juniper stepped onto the path, the air around her buzzing with ancient energy. She passed through groves of whispering willows and pools that reflected not her face, but her memories. Mother Goat laughing beside a waterfall, Fern's lullabies, Moss's ridiculous stories that made them all giggle till their bellies ached. Those memories filled her with courage. At the edge of the path, a creature waited. It was neither animal nor spirit, but something in between. A stag made of stardust, with eyes like falling comets and antlers that reached into other worlds. "You seek the mirror horn," the stag said, its voice echoing inside her thoughts. The only thing strong enough to shatter the wolf's illusion and break his bindings. Juniper nodded. Then ride, the stag said, kneeling. Without hesitation, she climbed onto his back. With a leap that tore through clouds, the stag took flight, galloping through the sky on trails of moonlight. They were heading to a place where only the bravest could go, the realm between dreams, where the mirror horn slept. Time was fading. The wolf was already on his way to the Well of the Eclipse, where he'd offer her siblings spirits in exchange for eternal freedom. Juniper clung to the stag's fur. There was no turning back. The stars shifted above as Juniper and the celestial stag crossed into a place untouched by time, a land woven from memories and whispers known only as the realm between dreams. Here, the sky shimmered in hues that had no name, the trees sang lullabies, and the ground sparkled with the dust of forgotten wishes. The stag slowed, his hooves no longer touching the earth but gliding inches above it. Before them stood a lake so still, it reflected not the world around it, but the truth within one's soul. At its center rose an island of glass, and upon it rested the mirror horn, a spiraled relic glowing with a silver light so pure even the darkness dared not touch it. Juniper stepped forward, heart thundering. But the path to the horn wasn't open. Guarding it stood 3 spirits, shadows of lost hopes, each wearing the form of someone Juniper once feared. The first became the storm that had once destroyed their winter garden. The second, the shadow of her own doubt, whispering, "You are too small, too weak, you can't save anyone." The third was the wolf himself, not the real one, but her memory of him, bigger, darker, crueler. She closed her eyes. "I'm not afraid," she said softly. "Not of storms, not of fear, and not of him." Her voice echoed across the lake, and the shadows dissolved into wind. The path opened. Juniper crossed the glassy water. As she stepped onto the island, the mirror horn began to glow brighter, responding to her courage, her love, her determination. She reached out, and the moment her hooves touched it, visions rushed into her mind. Her siblings, still trapped, their energy beginning to flicker. The wolf, nearly at the Well of the Eclipse, preparing the ancient ritual. And her mother, sensing something was wrong, racing through the forest with magic burning in her eyes. Juniper gasped as the mirror horn pulsed once, then lifted into the air, choosing her as its bearer. The stag lowered his head. "It is done," he said, "but you have little time. You must return now." With a mighty leap, they were airborne once more, the horn cradled close to Juniper's heart, glowing brighter with each beat. Far below, the Well of the Eclipse had begun to awaken, its stones cracking, its shadows stirring. The final battle was near, and Juniper would be ready. As Juniper and the celestial stag raced through the night sky, the world below began to tremble. The Well of the Eclipse, an ancient and forbidden place where the moon met the earth, loomed in the distance, its stone walls crackling with dark energy. The stag's hooves pounded the air, each beat sending a ripple through time itself. The mirror horn pulsed in Juniper's hooves, sending streams of silver light cascading across the horizon. Below them, the wolf stood at the edge of the well, chanting low words in a language as old as the earth. His eyes gleamed, dark and hungry, watching as the moon reached its apex, casting shadows deep into the well's gaping mouth. "The time has come," the wolf murmured. "By the power of the eclipse, I shall rise above all. The goats shall be mine, and the forest will bow." Juniper's heart pounded as she saw him, standing alone beside the dark waters, calling upon the ancient magic. The energy in the air was thick, heavy with the promise of destruction. But she wouldn't let it happen. "I'll stop you," she whispered to herself, her voice firm despite the fear gnawing at her. The stag flew faster, the wind howling around them. In the distance, her siblings were still bound, their eyes wide with fear and confusion. But their spirits were not broken. They could feel her approaching. They could feel the magic of the mirror horn. The wolf turned, sensing her arrival. His grin spread wide. "Ah, little Juniper, you think you can stop me with that shiny trinket?" He laughed, cruel and deep. The stag landed with a thundering sound on the edge of the well, its antlers flashing with starlight. Juniper jumped off and stood firm, clutching the mirror horn. Her siblings' voices echoed in her mind, urging her to act, but as the wolf moved toward her, the ground trembled beneath them, shaking with the power of the eclipse. The moonlight seemed to pulse, casting everything into an eerie glow. "You cannot defeat me," the wolf snarled. "I have already won." Juniper raised the mirror horn, the glow intensifying as she chanted the words she had learned on her journey. The spirits of the forest, the sky, the earth, they all joined her in the incantation, filling her with energy, with hope, with a force stronger than any fear. The wolf howled as the light from the mirror horn exploded in a brilliant flash, lighting up the sky and the earth beneath it. The wolf's howl echoed through the night, a sound filled with fury and disbelief. The light from the mirror horn was blinding, filling the entire valley with a shimmering glow that seemed to burn away the very shadows themselves. Juniper held the horn high, her eyes filled with unwavering determination. She had come this far, not for herself, but for her family, for her home. The echoes of her siblings' laughter, the warmth of their shared memories, powered her resolve. The wolf staggered back, his form flickering, as if the very magic of the horn was unraveling him. His black fur rippled with a dark energy that fought against the light, but it was no match for the pure, radiant force that Juniper summoned. "You cannot undo what is already done," the wolf growled, trying to steady himself. But there was doubt in his voice, fear creeping into his words. "No," Juniper whispered, her voice clear and strong. "But I can stop you." With a sudden cry, the wolf lunged, his claws slashing through the air. The light from the mirror horn surged, creating a protective barrier around Juniper, preventing him from reaching her. The energy crackled like a storm, shaking the ground beneath their feet. In the distance, Juniper could see her siblings, their eyes wide with awe, watching from their prison of vines, their spirits still flickering faintly. Her heart ached to see them, knowing they were so close, but still trapped. "Hold on," she called to them, her voice carrying across the valley. "I'm going to get you out," the wolf snarled, his eyes narrowing. With a swift movement, he unleashed a wave of darkness, sending a shockwave through the air. The barrier around Juniper trembled but held strong. "You're too weak, little goat," the wolf taunted, his voice dripping with malice. "Even with that horn you cannot defeat me." But Juniper was no longer afraid. The light in the mirror horn grew brighter, feeding off her bravery, her love for her family. The wolf was wrong. She was not alone. The magic of the forest, the stars, and her family's love were with her. With a cry of defiance, Juniper thrust the mirror horn forward. The light exploded, a wave of radiant energy that engulfed everything in its path. The wolf howled in agony as the light consumed him, his form dissolving into nothingness, his dark magic shattered by the pure power of the horn. The ground beneath him cracked and split, and the shadow that had clung to the land for so long vanished into the night. Juniper fell to her knees, breathless, as the glow of the mirror horn slowly dimmed. The valley was silent. The forest, once clouded by darkness, now stood bathed in the soft glow of the moonlight, clear and pure. As the last remnants of darkness vanished, the valley slowly came back to life. The moonlight no longer flickered in fear, but glowed steadily, casting a soft light over the land. The air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming flowers, and the trees, once twisted by the wolf's magic, now stood tall and strong, their leaves shimmering with new energy. Juniper slowly stood, her hooves shaking from the intensity of the battle, but her heart was light. The mirror horn had done its job. Its light had banished the wolf and broken his hold on the forest. But her siblings, her eyes darted toward the place where they had been trapped. The vines that had once bound them were now withering and turning to dust, the magic of the wolf's spell breaking apart like a shattered dream. One by one, her brothers and sisters began to stir, their spirits returning to their bodies. Fern was the first to stand, his eyes blinking in confusion before he broke into a wide grin. "We're free!" he exclaimed, his voice filled with wonder. Moss stretched his legs, shaking off the last remnants of the magical chains. "You did it, Juniper. You saved us all." One by one, the other goats stood, their faces bright with joy, their laughter ringing out in the moonlit night. Juniper couldn't help but smile, her heart swelling with love for them. But it wasn't over yet. There was still one thing she needed to do. With the mirror horn in her hooves, she approached the well of the eclipse. The stones, now cracked and empty, seemed to sigh in relief, the dark magic having been removed. The air was lighter, freer. She knelt before the well, holding the mirror horn high one last time. The light from the horn shimmered as it pulsed one final time, sending a beam of pure energy into the well. The shadows that had once swirled inside began to dissolve, replaced by a soft, golden light. The curse had been broken. The forest was safe. And as the first rays of dawn began to break over the horizon, Juniper felt a wave of peace wash over her. The land, once shrouded in fear, now stood bathed in the warmth of a new beginning. Her family gathered around her, their smiles wide, their spirits restored. Juniper looked up at the sky, the stars twinkling above as the sun began to rise. It had been a long journey, filled with danger and uncertainty, but they had overcome it all, together. And in that moment, Juniper knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, as long as they had each other, they would always be able to find the light, even in the darkest of times. The end.